Again, for me also, self-love is that honoring that all of my emotions and all of my feelings are natural and they're welcome. And some of you know a lot about my story, and some of you do not know maybe anything really. And so just for context, I am a 42-year-old woman. I am a single mom of a daughter who is soon 9 years old. I kind of been always on I would say, a self-love journey in search, as I was already reading self-help books and being curious about spirituality in primary school as a small child. And I was quite into this until I was about 14, and then gradually I started shutting these parts of me down. Even though it's always been, you know, there, it kind of, in a lot of ways, I kind of forgot who I am. And it wasn't until my 38th birthday that I truly would say I had my true awakening, where I just suddenly, it just like something like snapped or clicked in a very good way. But the good way was seeing very clearly how my inner landscape, how I was talking to myself and how I was thinking about myself was really, I'm going to use the word, destroying my life and also my health, because since about 6 or 7 I struggled with autoimmune problems, lots of body pain, and have been on and off with depressions, and yeah, I've really just been at war with my body and my mind. And what I suddenly realized is that because of how I feel inside, I was rejecting people that I wanted to pull close. I was pushing them away, and this was affecting all of my life. And this was affecting, of course, I was also seeing how when I was thinking negative about myself, I was programming my body, and my mind was programming each other, and to be at war and to attack itself. And so started a quite radical and dramatic, oh sorry, they keep stopping a little bit, so I have to, yeah, me and technical stuff. It's a journey. I just realized now that just as I'm talking about sending love to myself and realizing that because I was sending so much hate, I think I need to send more love to my technology. So the reason why I'm sharing this, I see some are joining now, and the reason why I'm sharing about my journey is because it's to try and motivate to see how much and quickly and dramatic change can be. So no matter where you are today, know that it can change very quickly when you set your mind to it. And I think I actually just want to get to that point first now, because it was one of the first things I learned in my self-love journey that really put things in perspective. And it is that as humans, I just want to read the comment here. Paul is right. I totally relate to your journey, being at war with yourself. Thank you for sharing. I think that's a reality for many people. Maybe even most people. And it was about coming back to short-term and long-term. It was that getting to understand that as humans, we tend to grossly overestimate what we can do in the short term. And we also tend equally to underestimate what we can do in the long term. And that started in itself for me to be a quite big dramatic change in how I was thinking about myself. Because, you know, I was trying to make all this list and all these things to do, and then at the end of the day, you know, sometimes I would just have been doing a few of those things, or just one, and then I would also then compare that to the days where I was able to do all of that long list I had prepared for myself. And Sandrika is saying, I got to start sending love to technology because I could not find this with my laptop, only with my phone, so I was late. Yeah, no, you know what? It's you're not the only one. I was like this several times this week, and it's challenging. So it's not you. It's let's blame this on Facebook because it is really difficult to navigate here now. So, but coming back to the short term and long term, I was realizing how much when I was putting my worth, which I'm going to cover as well, write it down, on what I was doing. So my self-worth at the end of the day was then connected to how much I have done on the imagine list, or how much I've done that day. And then, first of all, you know, knowing then that we tend to grossly overestimate what we can do in the short term, that kind of popped a very big, I would say, guilt trip bubble or self-hate bubble within myself. And what also was a big, really like a positive thing to know is about how much is possible in the long term. As in realizing that how much can change if we just do 1% every day. And when I say 1%, I often actually get a little bit of a stomach ache, because I do not want to pressure anyone to do really a lot or even one thing every day, because it depends on our own energy, and in particular our energy type, which is human design, but we're not going to get into that. But it's also honoring that, for instance, resting is really necessary. So if we can add resting as one of the 1%, I would then say that how can we do, if we do 1% every day, you know, in 100 days, that's a pretty awesome result. And that really changed so much for my mindset. And the second thing that was making a huge dramatic change for me was understanding the ego mind, understanding how it works with instincts and etc. And that really puts so much in perspective for me, and that's why I always include mindset. And afterwards, as I have been diving deep into also the original kind of mindfulness and the honesty path, then also seeing how very important this is when it comes to being honest, that we have all these things that happens inside of our brain, but we are not what we think. So that is a second thing that really was, or let's say that the third thing is that we are not what we think. Because this beautiful thing here, our mind, is a thinking box, it's a suggestion box. So it will come up with all kinds of wild, beautiful, weird, violent suggestions all the time. And that is, the thing is that there's always a place and a setting also for the killer. Their situation, pressing every 5 minutes to continue the broadcast. You know, there's a time and place even for the killer. Anything from killing to provide food, to killing to protect ourselves or our kids. So starting to also then be okay with that everything and anything that happens inside, it's not me, it's a thinking box, it's suggestions, it's instincts. That was truly such a profound change. Gonna read a comment from Elena here. One step is always one step, no matter how small. I have learned that this year. Oh, beautiful. And so yeah, that is one kind of, so we have the short term, which is for me ending up with being kind, and the long term of actually pushing myself. And then we have understanding that we have lots of instincts in us, that our instincts in a lot of ways in our bodies are, we are animals, in a lot of ways we are actually basically the same as when we were cavemen. And that we are not our thoughts. Those three were really just starting like a huge change in me. And then in combination with that, I started to be on a regular practice with meditation and learning then to observe my thoughts, so I didn't identify with every thought that popped up into my mind. And I have later become a meditation teacher, so I can teach 2 types of meditation too. And it's funny because now the past year I haven't practiced that much meditation because I've been diving into the 2 years. My focus has been embodiment. So the first 3 years my focus was meditation, and then I'm saying so wrong, sorry. I'm saying the 2 first years my focus was meditation and very, very strict. And then gradually I had like a change, and then the past year and a half my focus has been embodiment, which I call moving meditation, which I see as the feminine way of meditating, as in being with my body and feeling my body. And I'm going to say the 4th thing that made an impact for me in the beginning was knowing that all these things are practices. Meaning that I am not supposed to be a master in never thinking. I'm not supposed to sit down for 50 minutes and meditate and not have a thought. The point is to practice and to bring this into my life. So any kind of tool I have, I'm going to say again, I use is a practice in order. Just like when we do an education and other things, you know, it takes practice to get better at something. And the other step there was also letting go of the perfectionist and seeing how really being a perfectionist is self-mutilation. It's expecting oneself to live up to an ideal, and then starting to ask myself, where is this ideal coming from? And do I really see any perfect humans in the world? And I do see everyone as perfect in a lot of ways now, but I do not see people that are perfect as in terms of always doing the right thing. Because what has changed so much for me as I entered into this journey is coming to this, that life is an adventure. And self-love for me is, I'm going to say, maybe you heard it me say many times, is trusting and believing that anything and everything I have inside has a purpose, has a meaning, and has a gift. And that also means trusting and believing that the imagined mistakes of my past, even if that past was 10 minutes ago, has a lesson, has a purpose, and gives me something to use and bring into the future. And now, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about the idea. Imagine how really, truly boring life would be if one wakes up in the morning, do everything perfect the whole day, and then goes to bed and then continues. What comes to me for me now is thinking of going to, for instance, an amusement parks and sitting on a roller coaster and then feeling the dread up to the hill and then feeling the, why did I do this? As we're falling down, and then having such an amazing time afterwards and feeling it was a kick. So why I'm sharing this is, how can one then bring this kind of thinking of life as a journey, as an amusement park, and trusting that everything that happens has a gift. Recording. So everything has a gift when we believe it has. And that is, I'm going to say again, the motivation I'm trying to bring up now, is that how much truly everything in my life that I have been ashamed of, that I've been scared of, has ended up being my biggest gifts. And the more I trust that, and then the more I dare to lean into that, the quicker the diamond, the gift is revealed. And part of that process, a huge part of the process of self-love for me, is also having gentleness with that it is scary still. As like I go deeper and deeper, and I always meet new layers. And I'm not here to try to be a perfect. I am here to enjoy the human experience. And the backdrop, I felt to share a little bit more about, the change that is possible, is that I have had multiple depressions, and I started quite early. I've never been diagnosed with any kind of disorder or anything like that. It's not even my autoimmune, it's just been confirmed that I had problems. So and that makes sense for me, because even though I'm super sensitive and in a lot of ways have had a lot of challenges when it comes to health, then at the same time I've always been very strong mentally and also have a strong body. And that has been really confusing for me before. I know it makes perfect sense, because it's connected to how everything is a gift. Meaning that the bigger the gift, the bigger the shadow. So my body, as my sensitivity and my senses, I'm psychic and I am energy intuitive. I feel pretty much anything and everything all the time. It makes perfect sense that I would have what I thought was body pains and autoimmune. And then living in a society that was constantly telling, a society is constantly telling us basically that we're not supposed to feel, that our bodies are supposed to be like a machine. So I was trying to suppress all the signals, and I was trying to force to only rely on my mind. And that is what we also see, in my perspective, what happens in the Western world is this focus on the mind. And yeah, I'm gonna just looking a little bit if I'm following any kind of red thread, is that because what I've also experienced entering into what we call the spiritual, I'm doing like this, kind of environment and world, is that this hate in a lot of ways towards the ego and the mind. And I don't believe in that. And even more and more, I am coming to this deep love for my ego. And for some, this can seem very controversial, even provoking, and for others, it can make sense. So for me, it comes down to, again, to trusting that everything and anything I am born with and I have has a purpose. And I then also feel to also then remember again that I'm saying that anything, every instinct even, as remember I was talking about the killer as well, having actually, it has its gifts, it has it in the right time is necessary. But that doesn't mean that one has to bring out or ever will need to bring out the killer in a life. But I'm saying that is there dormant, waiting for when it's the right situation. And when we embrace that we have everything inside, that we have the capacity for anything and everything really. And what is also then also just separating me from someone else is basically our life situations. Okay. Does anyone have any questions, by the way, that's watching? Just keep dropping them. As I am trying to pull back my red thread, because suddenly I felt like jumping into a wormhole about something completely different. And yeah, I've covered that, how I've always in my life struggled with never feeling good enough and also feeling too much. And this had, from a very young age, I started rejecting people. I was scared of being rejected. I was scared of not being liked or too much. So I would push people away. And this followed me all the way until my 38th year. And still at times I have to look myself and remembering this kind of pattern. And when I'm remembering it, I'm not trying to mutilate myself, I'm just being gentle, because that's the thing that I also found out what didn't work was trying to force myself to be fearless or forcing myself to do things. So I'm coming back to saying how I'm meeting myself and my own fear with softness and gentleness. Because fear is a guide. So fear in itself, it's not bad. It's how we handle fear that if it becomes a gift or a shadow. And sometimes then one needs to put the ego, rational mind, you know, to the fear, and sometimes it's through the heart, and sometimes it's through the intuition, and really it's about using all of us and letting all parts of us work together. Yeah, Paul is saying, I hear every word you have said because that's how I feel and have felt. Ego, mind, etc. Thank you for sharing. And I've also been deeply afraid of singing. So I would be the type of person that wouldn't even, like I would struggle even to sing to myself. I have also struggled hugely to dance, also by myself. So that's something to think about if you see me talking now in the live and also posting videos of myself moving and etc. You know, it's not that long ago really that I was able to do lives like this without being super nervous. It's actually only a year and a half ago that I met my fear with gentleness and gentle pushing and started doing lives. And a huge part of that was again understanding that the nervousness that I was feeling was not my enemy. It was something to bring with me. It was actually just the activation of the energy. So that's again how our perception of trying to fight something that is creating the shadow rather than using the surge, for instance, of what I thought was anxiety for performing was really just showing me that how amazing this would be for me. Because I wouldn't be here, you know, I couldn't do what I do today if I'm not now comfortable sitting here doing a live and talking to you. So it's really connected to my life purpose to be able to make, for instance, lives. And I was deeply scared of it, and it's been a huge struggle in my life. We're talking about I could get panic attacks and anxiety and black out, pass out. Or just the thought of needing to do something, for instance, in class, in school, needing to go up in front of the class and talk. I would just freeze. I would just be super scared. And Also, things like if I was joining a group call, I would find it really difficult to share. Even if I would be watching a live like this, I would find it really scary to comment underneath. So remember, I'm sharing this in order to hopefully motivate how big of a dramatic, huge of a change that's possible when one starts to be curious of what's happening on the inside. And yeah, I already also covered that I have autoimmune problems and my body shutting down on me, and also it was affecting really what I was allowing in my life. Not only romantic relationships, but also friendships and connections. I would keep a lot of people around me that really didn't love me or like me for who I truly am. And that is also self-mutilation. Okay, so what do I feel like jumping into now? Yeah, it's about coming back to softness again. It's about, for instance, I still can feel the shadow jumping up about if I'm attending a course, if I'm not holding it, if I'm just participating, I can still sometimes feel a surge of nervousness, of being scared, of moving or using my voice. And I meet myself gently. And that's when it's really good, for instance, to apply both heart and mind, as in reminding myself how amazing I am, from the mind, as how all the times is gone is beautiful, how will remind myself how when I'm holding a course, I'm loving when people are participating and sharing. And then it's also about connecting and honoring my heart and my body. And part of that honoring is also knowing that sometimes we are feeling tired or have not the presence of mind for maybe speaking up that day. Okay, I see a question. Any advice on how loving the body and it's changing? Could you bring me a little bit more specific on loving the body and it's changing? I would love to understand more. So let's see, where am I in my notes? Okay, didn't feel right there. A huge part of my self-love journey is realizing that any and every time I'm saying I do not want this, I'm self-mutilating. And also know that it's a different thing to acknowledge that something isn't healthy, as in this isn't working out for me. That is a very different thing than saying I do not want that. Because I do not want that is rejection of what was. That is something I would love for you to play around with and becoming aware of. So I would say that's an exercise. Start to be aware of playing around with those kind of perspectives, and feel free to use your own words and find your own resonance with this. And as an extension to that is also realizing that I want that is also can often actually also be self-mutilation. because it's an ideal again. I want that is really just another way of saying I do not want that. So, and that for me is connected to affirmations, which is on my long list of things that I have written that didn't work. And I see someone has written, and I will get to that afterwards. Thank you for sharing. I will get a little bit to that afterwards. And so I'm laughing at myself. I'm not that good at trying to read names, comments, and keep on track. Affirmations has a huge shadow aspect, a huge one, and it's something that's very often used in courses, and it's not bad in itself, but it does have a huge shadow, and that is getting honest with oneself, that where is this idea of this is what I should be or I should become coming from. And also being aware that we do not know what we do not know. Meaning that, have you ever experienced, looking back into your life, that you've seen that you were so desperately wanting something, and then afterwards realizing that thank God it didn't work out? How could I have thought so low about myself, or how could I have thought so, like, that dramatic change one's perspective on something? I know that for my part that has happened quite a lot. And that is the shadow aspect of affirmations. It's being aware of where is this drive coming from, and also knowing that if this isn't truly from something that's natural or good for you, then this is again self-mutilation, as in driving you to become something that you're not. So I do affirmations now and then. I sometimes use it also in my practices that I give to people. And it's something I use with caution. It's not a quick fix like many use. And I'm going to say again, it is something I strongly advise use with caution. And, okay, let's see. For me, that is also connected to what I would say didn't work. Work is gratitude. And that's again gonna maybe be provoking or shocking for a lot of people, because it's one of the things that's promoted so much is this gratitude and be kind. And I'm gonna do a little bit of gratitude and be kind, and then I'm gonna get to the question that's in the chat. So the thing about gratitude is that just as with affirmations, one can actually end up in, I'm going to say, affirm or have something continue that maybe isn't good for you. And that could have served, like anything, remember, anything and everything has its purpose. So that means that up until that moment, it was perfect and beautiful. So it's really like one can have gratitude for what was. But if one is trying to force gratitude, then again it can easily become a drive of, first of all, driving over oneself, not honoring the body, for instance, that's saying that I'm too tired today. And also that it can reinforce patterns and ways that are not true for you. And gratitude is amazing. So remember, I'm not saying gratitude is bad. I'm saying that gratitude is not a quick fix or easy fix, and it is something that I am applying with caution. So when it naturally shows up, I celebrate it. But I am no longer writing tons of gratitude and affirmations in my book and like in my journal like that. And I used to do that. The 2 first years of my journey, I was doing all these things. I was so diligent in my journaling, my affirmations, my gratitude, and it was really just keeping me stuck. And that is how it is with, I'm going to say, the majority of the self-help tools and self-love and all the spiritual tools that's around, is really just keeping one stuck. I'm going to get more into that later in another call, but feel free to drop your comments. And the be kind is often a straitjacket that is leading people to forget about themselves and to not honor their energy. And remembering, when I'm saying that be kind has huge shadows, I'm not saying to be evil, no. But putting ourselves first is really important. And by that, I'm not excluding that there will be situations and times where it's natural to not put ourselves first. But if the default is to not put ourselves first, to be kind, when I'm looking back, every time I have lost my patient, been unkind, and these things, it's because my energy has been drained. And that actually happened to me today, because I get a lot of messages and I've been feeling really guilty for not getting back to them. So yesterday I took a long time sitting down and answering a lot of messages. And there's a lot of people that just doesn't say no, and that are really don't respect no, and are really good at pulling, like trying to pull strings in terms of saying things in order to try and have me feel guilty for not spending more time chatting with them. And I end up just being super rough, because this person, I was saying no several times, and I ended up just saying that this is, I don't even remember the words, and I don't think I want to remember the words, but I just got really lost my patient. And it was just afterwards I just realized that, you know what, I pushed myself by answering this person. And I pushed myself with answering too many people. So this person was just the person who got like the drop that was spilling over. So I got back to, if people don't respect my second no, and they keep messaging, I block. And that isn't kind in a lot of ways. But it is kind in terms of me honoring my energy, so that, for instance, rather than sitting down and chatting with one person at a time, I'm doing a free course, and I can do more free stuff, and I can share more, and I can publish it on YouTube and Facebook, so it's available for everyone. I hope that put it into context. And so that is about be kind, is that really pausing. Okay. I'm gonna see them. I used to love my physical body, but my body has changed recently, and it is harder for me to love it now that it's changing. Can't wait. Thank you for sharing. I can really relate to that, and it's a really actually good reflection to jump onto what hasn't worked for me, because 3 years ago I was for over a year in a very strict workout regime. I would get up naturally at 5:30. I didn't even need to do a wake-up call. I would just get up in the morning, I would work out, I would do the affirmations, I would do the gratitude, I would do the journaling, I would attend a course and everything. So I would just get a shit done by a certain amount of time, and I had a six-pack and was really fit. And what happened after about a year of this was that my body just went on a strike, because I was running myself over, myself as remembering that a huge part of me is my body. And for me now, it has been a huge journey of relating to myself and my body, and journeying with both, feeling this at times even disgust of where is this belly coming from? And it's meeting myself with compassion, because remember that everything and anything we have inside has the potential to be a gift. So for instance, this feeling of my belly is guiding me to where I am not loving myself. It's guiding me to show where I am connecting my self-worth onto how I look. So that again is maybe the biggest part of the self-love journey the 2 past years, which has the focus on embodiment, is that disattaching my self-love, my self-worth, my self-value to my appearances. And that's connected even more to now being a woman of 42, because this was, the 2 years ago was also around my 40th birthday, and I'm so glad that I started that journey around that time, because for me it didn't feel like a big deal to turn 40, but for everyone around me it seemed like everyone was dreading this 40th and was expecting me to be sad about it. And that's connected again to this idea that a woman's worth, or anyone's worth, is how they look. And I'm gonna cover more in 2 more calls. So, and part of what I'm gonna cover is also dependent on what reflections and questions I'm getting. So please feel free to ask them. So what I'm going to say did not work is having a strict workout regime. And by that, I'm not saying that you shouldn't work out, remember. This is something to be aware of, how our ego minds tend to think in black or white, meaning that if I'm saying I don't believe in be kind, automatically, often the mind will think, but you can't be mean, you know. So that is something to be aware of. So what didn't work out for me was workout regime and denying, forcing, and having a strict routine. And these things can be beautiful for you. But what I realized was that I was trying to fulfill someone else's idea of how a healthy life is supposed to look like. And interesting enough is that now that I have let myself be on this journey, now I naturally am getting back to working out again. But I don't consider it really workout. So even saying it now feels weird, because for me, it's about moving my body so I get to feel more healthy. Just gonna see comment here. I am sharing. Being kind to yourself is the self-preservation of the true nature of your soul. I think there's some autocorrect there. Being kind to yourself is a self-preservation. Yeah, of the true nature of your soul. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's about honoring our true self. So there's all these things I was doing. I was talking about the regime and getting up and etc. was based on self-help courses that I was doing a ton of them and doing all these things, and it was this idea that perfection and a perfect kind of life would be include get up early, do all these things. And again, if this is your thing, do it. You know, the difference is if you need to the difference is if you need to use any kind of force. And that is something that I am now replacing, that, you know, must, should, shouldn't, all these things. I am getting curious, do I want this? So that has been a huge transformation and help for me, is this, if I notice that I'm thinking, oh, I shouldn't do that, or I have to do that. Like, for instance, I have to work out. Then I'm gently meeting myself with curiosity and like, do I want to work out? And why do I want to work out? So it's getting to that space where it's a natural desire from myself and not something I'm doing because I should. And I also said a little bit about what didn't work out is trying to be without fear. And I am gonna say that again, because if really the biggest drain of it all is fear of fear, and anxiety is exactly fear of fear. But if one accepts that fear is part of life, even natural part of life, then one starts to meet the fear in a different way. So rather than fear being a shadow that is somehow casting, like imagine casting a shadow and you're trying to avoid it, it's something you just realize, well, it's because the sun is moving. There will be shadows. And I also covered the I do not want. And I also want to share that changing for anyone else is not self-love. And I'm laughing because the first year I was changing because I was trying to be worthy for someone else. And I was also trying to prove myself to all the people that has been saying mean things to me. So I spent so much energy trying in the beginning to change and to prove something. And a huge part of self-love journey is also collapsing the pedestaling. And by that I mean by thinking that anyone is a master or an expert. I am not a master or expert of anything and anything but being myself. And that is a beauty. I am an expert of being myself, and so are you. So that is a huge kind of part of, again, the self-love journey, is starting to realize that I am unique. I have gifts. I have a unique combination of gifts that no one else has. No one can do exactly what I do. And it's the same for you. So that is why it's also so important to be aware of affirmations and gratitude and trying I want and I do not want, is that, is it as Ian was saying so beautiful, is it in nature with my true self? Because when I am in my true self, it's pretty effortless. Sitting here talking to you and talking about my journey, it doesn't take much energy, really. It doesn't take really preparation. I spent 10 minutes writing some notes, and so now and then it's getting some notes to me, because I am not trying to be anyone else but me. I am simply here sharing what has worked for me, and I'm gonna get to then also is that, remember then, pedestaling is that you're not here to make notes and do exactly as I say, or anyone else, because a lot of the things that works for me is not going to work for you, and a lot of the things that didn't work for me maybe will be perfect for you. So it's getting to that kind of trust that you are the expert, but also seeing the beauty of how amazing it is to be able to learn from other people's journey. That is how one can actually start to jump also in time, right? It's like listening to other people and then feeling the resonance within is that, this isn't true for me, or this is true for me. So even if anything you take from this course is knowing a lot of things that isn't right for you, beautiful, beautiful. And if you get inspired by me in any way, beautiful as well. And really, that is at the core of my self journey, is getting to trusting my intuition, to trust my intuition, to trust myself. And that is again honoring myself in terms of that a course can be amazing, but it may not be the right for me now. Or this certain thing can be amazing, but it isn't amazing for me right now. It's honoring that even if I said yes before, maybe I need to withdraw that yes later. But it is also honoring a radical self-responsibility, as in staying loyal to your word. So if you're going to go back on a yes, making sure that for another time you check in with yourself better, and that if you are canceling something, you're not really putting yourself down, because fear can also have us think that something isn't right for us. Just gonna see a little bit of the comments here. Thank you. I'm not quite sure actually what the thank yous are for, since it's delayed, but I appreciate it. And saying, love and respect the uniqueness in yourself as well as every other human being. Yes. And the thing is that when we respect ourselves and our own uniqueness, then that naturally starts to happen with others. Because when we try to force ourselves to fit into a box or a mold of what perfect person is, then we will actually also expect others to fit into a box, to be kind, as in say yes just because you want them to, because you have said yes so many other times when you didn't want to, but you were sacrificing yourself. Yeah, so what I would just want to say, since I think many are on their spiritual journey, is that being aware that often one can actually just replace the outside ordinary world box with spiritual box, and that is again connected to the be kind, the gratitude and affirmations, and following someone else's script. And the 2 second things that has not worked for my self-love journey is twin flame and soulmate ideas, because it's about realizing that timelines are constantly changing and there's so many alternative realities happening all the time. And something that didn't work for me was God. So anytime I say God, I am not thinking about something that's external, because God for me is the collective consciousness, is a collection of everything. Every energy collective is for me God. And that was a big part of my journey. And why I call that part of my self-love journey is because for me self-love is also radical self-responsibility. Is realizing that I am the creator of my life. And so 2.5 years ago I needed to kill God. And then with a gradual process I brought God in again. But then it's the God of, yeah, as I just said, like every energy collectively is God. And that might change. And so as I just said, radical self-responsibility and radical honesty is for me self-love. And I hope that that feels like a red thread in everything I'm saying. And combined with that is also compassion with, even though I am the creator of my life, is that I am also in a physical body that is filled with memories, as in DNA, from other generations. That means that there's a lot that's happening that is from me, but I am not the creator of, per se. So that is the dance of dancing between radical self-responsibility, as in I created this, I am the creator of it. At the same time, also having compassion about, for instance, being a human with instincts that are from caveman times. I don't know how long I've been going, but I feel like I am gonna just cover 2 more things and then I will continue tomorrow. And I'm just gonna say again how huge, if you're only gonna bring one thing with you from the whole of the course, if you intend or not, is that how much of an energy drain, as in self-mutilation, every and any way, it is to trying to fight what is. So, acceptance is a huge part of the self-love journey. And that also includes accepting that at times we hate ourselves, at times we feel shame, at times we feel all the feelings, and that is part of the human journey. And the more I enter into this, I will call it radical acceptance, the quicker things are transforming in my life. And for me, there's a huge change. So funny. There's a huge difference, I was going to say, between change and transformation. And for me, it's always mixed when I'm using the word change, because change for me is something I see a lot of people using in terms of, I want to change, I want to become better and all these things, which is really rejecting who you are now. It's self-mutilation, it's saying you're not good enough. And transformation is also, for me then, becomes more about, let's see, what's the word? Excitement about blooming, loving where I'm at, and wanting to expand without needing to expand in order to love myself. And this feels like part of the subject I'm going to cover tomorrow, the next day, because I feel like a big question mark inside as I said that. So that is beautiful. Okay. I am gonna round up this live, and thank you for the ones who are here. Let's see, that's a question. You have come a long way in 3 years. Your journey is beautiful. Enjoy. Thank you. Well, it's been more than 3 years, but thank you. And I was wondering about balancing wanting to transform and love and accept all of you. Yeah, well, that's something we're going to cover. So thank you for affirming that. So please send me comments and questions, even though I'm sharing that there's a lot of message. Remember, there's a huge difference between messages. Someone sending me a high message and demanding to talk to me is something else than people sending reflections and shares. So remember that, like, truly I love it every time I see a comment here.